Jnanandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuvamilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Devoti Vedanta Swami Nityanam Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Shesha Shanyavadi Shatam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasa Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Rama Rama Krishna Krishna Krishna
Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare
Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna,
Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare 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 Rama Hare everyone Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, everyone.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Gaurani Jaya, Gaurani Jaya, Gaurani Jaya,
Jaya Gaurani Jaya, Gaurani Jaya, Gaurani Jaya,
Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Gaura Hare Ram,
Nitya Gauri Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol,
Jai Jai Prabhupada, Jai Jai Prabhupada,
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Snupidaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tanamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharne Nivase Shasunyavadi Prashkati Desatar Om Gyanatamirandasya Jana Jana Salakaya Saksu Samanatan Jana Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Caitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Vadati Sarpadanti Vanshakapatruvascha Kritasindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanidu Vashtaviram. Hare Krishna. We were hearing this quite amazing pastime of Sakshi Gopal and the older Brahmana, so much appreciating the serving mood of the younger Brahmana, and these were both Vaishnavas. He promised to give his daughter to the young Brahmana in charity. Now, last week we spoke a little bit about how politically incorrect some of these concepts are at the present. But this society all accepted these Vedic principles, and it works smoothly. It works smoothly. The principles were based on Shastra, and everyone accepted the authority of the Shastra, and the Brahmins were ultimately they were supposed to have studied the Shastra, and therefore they could discern what is proper and improper activity, proper and improper way to run society based on the Shastra. And the Shastra was accepted as coming from Krishna or greatly realized devotees or great transcendentalists. So in any way, the society worked very well, and people, because of their trust in the absolute truth, because of their inherent piety and trust in the absolute truth and their trust in Krishna, they were peaceful, and they didn't doubt, and they weren't on the mental platform about what should be done and what should not be done. And in addition, Shastra put life in perspective, a greater perspective. There was a meaning to life, and there was some philosophical presuppositions that were accepted by everyone that gave life its meaning. And not only gave life its meaning, it gave how we reacted to life's circumstances meaning. And it gave reasons to act in a proper way, because we're eternal, we're souls, and the soul transmigrates from body to body based on one's karma or one's activities in this life. So therefore, one naturally would be very careful about how he acted in this life, because it was going to affect his future. And no one, either in contemporary society or this ancient Vedic society, no one likes to suffer. So the wise persons, thinking about their future and not wishing to suffer in the future, if for no other reason, acted properly in this life. So there was a purpose and there was a goal. The goal was either liberation, mukti, or the actual perfection of liberation, mukti hitva anurupam srupena avastitaha. The perfection of liberation is to be acting in our actual position, our natural position, who we actually are. Now, so there's so much philosophical discussion that can take place on this level, because everyone is so conscious, almost consciously or unconsciously, disconnected from who they are, and it's very, very disturbing to society. No one knows who they are, no one feels like they are who they are, Everyone is disconnected from their bodies, floating around on the mental platform, disconnected from their countries, disconnected, not everyone, of course, I'm making a generalization, from their families, and also at war internally with their own minds usually. Confirmed by that proper sneeze at the right time exactly. So in any case, whether it's politically incorrect or not, it worked. And who can say that about the current society that is so postmodern in the sense that it postmodern deconstructs all the previous concepts of reality. That which was accepted as true previously isn't necessarily accepted as true now, so everything has to be rediscovered by each and every individual. And oh, what chaos it causes, and what polarization it causes, and what conflict, dangerous conflict that the poor innocent people get involved in. And what to speak of the poor innocent animals who aren't involved in any of the conflicts. Still they have to suffer so much. And because of that, there's so much discordance in the world because of the killing of the innocent animals. So in any case, that was a whole long preamble to this class, because the concept that you could give your daughter away in charity is just so foreign to contemporary way of thinking that I thought I'd speak something about it. So, from one point of view. So when he said, when the old Brahmana said to the young Brahmana that I want to give my daughter to you in charity, and the young Brahmana said, this isn't going to work because you're aristocratic and well-educated, your family is like that, and I'm from a poor, even though we're Brahmins by caste, I'm from a poor family, I have no education. You may agree to it at this time by your sentiment and your good-hearted happiness in being in Vrindavan and standing with me in front of the deity of Gopal in Vrindavan. But your family members, they are not going to agree to this. And the old Brahmin said, well, I can do what I want. She's my daughter. And the young Brahmin said, no, that's just not the way it works. Your family members won't let it happen. And then he gave an example. Consider the story of Queen Rukmini and her father Bhishmaka. King Bhishmaka wanted to give his daughter Rukmini in charity to Krishna. But, and this is actually called Kanyadan, means giving in charity of one's young daughter. But Rukmi, King Bhishmaka's eldest son, he objected. Therefore, he could not carry out, the king could not carry out his decision. So here's Prabhupada's purport. So this is a story, a pastime in the, that's described in the, I think it's the 51st, 52nd, or 52nd, 53rd, 54th chapter of the 10th canto, a pastime. And this is how Krishna gained his first wife, Rukmini. And just after he had defended Mathura from Jarasandha's attack for the 17th time, 17 years, 17 times Jarasandha attacked with so many army men, then Krishna and Balaram fled from the battlefield, and therefore Krishna is called Ranchor, especially in Gujarat he is worshipped as Ranchorji, as the Lord who fled from the battlefield, which is so interesting because for a Kshatriya, to flee from the battlefield was considered a very dishonorable thing. But whatever Krishna does is worshipable. So Krishna's fleeing from the battlefield along with Balaram is worshipable, and therefore he's worshipped as Ranchor. the Lord who fled from the battlefield, because it's, if you think about it, he's the all-powerful Supreme Lord, and what can the all-powerful Supreme Lord, who knows everything and is everywhere present, what could he possibly fear? What could cause him to flee from the battlefield, from any battlefield? What could, in fact, what causes him to do anything? He's completed in himself. He has all his desires. He has something called his Icha Shakti, which means his potency that fulfills all his desires. So what not only causes him to flee from the battlefield, but what causes him to do anything? We do something because we want something, or we want to avoid something, but what causes Krishna to act? And ultimately, it's what is it?
Love.
Huh?
Love.
Love of his devotees, or one can say that because he wants to. We would all like to be in that position, just do what we want. But never, we try to organize life so that we can do whatever we want, and some of us have already experienced it. Never quite works out the way that we've planned. Perhaps some of us have already experienced this because we don't have the qualification to be fully independent. The qualification to be fully independent is to be God. So he is the one who is swatantra. He is fully independent. So Prabhupada gives his purport on this, and he says, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 52nd chapter, 25th verse, this is the chapter that's describing Rukmini. King Bandhunam Ichatam Datum Krishnaya Bhaginim Nripa Tato Navarya Krishna Dvid Rukmi Saidyam Amanyata. King Bhishmaka of Vidarbha wanted to offer Lord Krishna his daughter, Rukmini. But Rukmi, the eldest son of his 5 sons, objected. Therefore, Bhishmaka withdrew his decision and decided to offer Rukmini to the king of Chedi, Shishupal, who was a cousin of Krishna's.
Excuse me, why did he decide to change his mind?
Because Rukmi, his eldest son, forced him to change his mind.
Right.
You can't do this. And one could ask, why did he listen to his eldest son? Usually, it's because you have no choice for one reason or another. Because you don't want to fight, have a whole big family quarrel, this, that.
They're usually protecting the dynasty or the kingdom.
So many different things. Yes, good reason. He was a cousin of Krishna, and Shishupal had the special characteristic, not special, yes, special in the sense of no one else really had it to the degree that he had it, that he was completely envious of Krishna. He was completely envious of Krishna. He was born hating Krishna because he was carrying that from his previous birth.
Who was he in his previous birth?
Huh?
Who was he in his previous birth?
He was ultimately Jai Vijay, one of those who fell down. Shishupal Dantavakra. They were born with the special mission of being envious of Krishna. We are all born with our special missions, and there's 2 ways to look at that. One way that we can look at that is we have our special mission as our karma that we have to fulfill. And we're pushed, we think we're freely choosing what we're doing, but we're so much pushed by the effects of our previous births. But another way to look at it is we're all born with a unique gift to offer to Krishna. It may not be the biggest gift, it may not be the smallest gift, but we all have our unique gifts to offer to Krishna. And that we could say is our special mission. What do you think about that? In brief. Well, yeah, good, huh? What do you think about that, Basu? Well, anyway, I'll think for you. What a wonderful thought. Have something that I can offer to Krishna that no one else can offer to Krishna. And it's my gift and my mission. And then we're complete. We feel complete when we're offering who we are to Krishna. Then we feel complete. Otherwise, we feel something is missing, no matter how many things we place in our life. So, however, Rukmini conceived of a trick because she didn't want to marry Shishupal. She wanted to marry Krishna. And you know why she wanted to marry Krishna? It's something very mysterious that's very important for us to know, that she had heard about Krishna from Sri Narada Muni. And just by hearing about Krishna's qualities, his form, his beauty, his characteristics, she just heard about Krishna. And just by hearing about Krishna, she fell in love with him. She decided, I'm only going to marry Krishna. And she decided that if he doesn't accept me, it means that I'm not qualified enough, pure enough. And what I'll do is I'll perform austerities. I won't marry anyone else. Because I'm not qualified, I'm going to become qualified. Even if it takes me hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of births, I'm going to perform austerities just so I can have this deep, intimate relationship with Krishna, of being Krishna's wife. She was so devoted to Krishna just by hearing. So that's quite astounding, isn't it? Oh, I think it's astounding anyway. So Rukmini conceived of a trick because the last thing she was going to do is marry this Sisupal. And she compared it to that which is meant for the lion to be carried away by a jackal. And in this analogy, Krishna was the lion, and who was the jackal? Shishupal. So she wrote Krishna a letter, and she gave it to a Brahmana to carry to Krishna, and Krishna, he said, oh, it's from Rukmini, I've been thinking about her, and immediately I'll go and kidnap her tomorrow. And anyway, it was very sweet. Thus, in order to please Rukmini, who was his great devotee, Krishna kidnapped her. There ensued a great fight between Krishna and the opposing party, headed by Rukmini's brother, Rukmi. It's actually such a wonderful pastime in the 54th chapter, 54th, I believe, yeah, of the 10th canto. Is that right, Caitanya?
Yes.
54th chapter. But then when Krishna, had Rukmi, captured Rukmi and bound him up, and then Rukmini was in a difficult position because after all, Rukmi was her brother, and it was going to be their marriage day, and for something so inauspicious as one's brother being killed. So Balaram came, and he said, Krishna, how can you do this? There he was tied up. How could you do this? How could you humiliate he's our brother-in-law now, he's our relative now, he's in our family. How could you do this? How could you kill him? So we can't do this. And Rukmini was very pleased at this. And but they had to do something. So they made him look very peculiar. They cut off and scarred his hair and face so that he looked very peculiar. And therefore he couldn't go back to his own city again of Matila. No, not Matila. What was the city? Kundina, yes, thank you. He couldn't go back, so he started his own new city. then later on, in the 51st chapter, at one of the marriages of Krishna's grandchildren or something like that, grandchildren, Rukmi was there, and he challenged Balaram to a game of chess, some type of a game they play. I can't remember the name of it, but it's quite common. And he and his friend, the king of Kashi, were cheating, continuously cheating. And they were betting very, very high stakes in this, because Kshatriyas, the nature of a Kshatriya is you challenge him and he can't refuse. He has to accept the challenge just by his very nature. So they kept challenging him to gamble more and more and more, and he kept losing because they were cheating. And this is a lesson to us. Don't cheat Balaram. And don't insult Balaram, because he gets very angry. So finally, Balaram said, "You cheated." And they said, no, we didn't. And he had his friends, Rukmi had his friends backing him up. No, he didn't cheat. We saw everything. He didn't cheat at all. But then an Akashvani appeared, a voice from the sky, and said, no, actually they did cheat Balaram. And then they wouldn't listen. And Balaram kept getting angrier and angrier. And the king of Kashi kept on teasing Balaram. And Balaram suddenly became so angry, just like on the full moon day, and Balaram is the color of the moon, he's whitish color. He just like the ocean, the tides become very strong and overwhelming. On the full moon day, Balaram became so angry that he took his gada, his club, and he hit Rukmi with it and killed him. I think he killed him that way. But then the king of Kashi, who kept showing his teeth at Balaram, he took that same club and smacked him in the face and knocked out all his teeth. And he ran away with all his friends very quickly. So anyway, Krishna shaved off all Rukmi. So the same person who had saved Rukmi long ago was the one who had ended his life. Sri Balaram did not like this, and so he pleased Rukmini. Balaram rebuked Krishna in that way. But it's all pastimes for the pleasure of the devotees, and different rasas were being performed. So the young Brahmana said that you can't give me your daughter in charity because your family will never accept it. And see how much trouble it comes to when you do something that your family won't accept. And the elderly Brahmana said, and here we go with unpolitically correct statements, "My daughter is my own property. If I choose to give my property to someone, who has the power to stop me?" But in this concept, she was well taken care of, because when something is your property, you take care of it very carefully if it's yours. And if it's someone else's property, just like if your car gets hit by another car, then it's very painful. But if someone else's car gets hit, oh, so sad, but no pain. "My dear boy, I will give my daughter to you in charity, and I will neglect the position of others, of all others. Don't doubt me in this regard. Just accept my proposal." He was very strong. This is the influence of the holy land of Vrindavan, standing in front of being the satisfaction that comes from being in Vrindavan, the satisfaction that comes from being in front of a wonderful, powerful deity, the satisfaction of the whole pilgrimage. So he was very strong and very, very clear about what he was going to do. And the younger Brahmana replied, and here is the statement that's, or one of the statements that's going to be the key to the continuation of the whole pastime. If the younger Brahmana replied to the determined statements of the older Brahmana, if you have decided to give your young daughter to me, then say so before the Gopal deity. Because, Prabhupada will explain it. And coming before Gopal, the elderly Brahmana said, my dear Lord, please witness that I have given my daughter to this boy. Here's Prabhupada's purport, we'll read at least some of it. In India, it is still the custom for a daughter to be offered to someone simply by word. In other words, people kept their words. This was, if I say this, I must do it. This was also true in the West, not only in India, not so much as marriage perhaps, but people, a man is known by, and a woman, if you keep your word, your integrity is kept intact, your character is strong, and people were honored in that way. It was a point of honor to them that I have said it, I have promised it, and because I have said it, I must do it. It may be convenient, it may be inconvenient, but I have said it. It's my word. Such character. In India, it is still the custom for a daughter to be offered to someone simply by word. This is called Vagdatta, which basically means offering by word. This means that the father, brother, or guardian of a girl has given his word that she'll be married to a certain man. Consequently, that daughter cannot be married to anyone else. She is reserved by virtue of the honest words of the father or guardian. There are many instances in which the parents of a female child have given someone a verbal promise that the daughter will be married to his son, and both parties agree to wait until the boy or girl are grown up, and then the marriage takes place. Sometimes, this was also true, interestingly enough, what Prabhupada is saying in the dynasty of Genghis Khan. Did you know that? Did you know that? Did you know that? Only Linda knew that.
I didn't have
And now you do. That when Genghis Khan was he was maybe 10 years old, they wanted to find him a wife, and they went to one village, and he was already a real Kshatriya, and somehow he met some 12-year-old girl, and he favored her, and then they lined up all the girls, and he was going to choose one, and he chose that one, and he said to her, I'll come back when I'm 16. He was already very strong, because he was only 10 then. And just by these words, they kept their word. Following this custom, which is very old in India, the elderly Brahmana promised to give his daughter to the young Brahmana in charity. And he promised this before the Gopal deity. In India, the custom is to honor any promise made before the deity. Such a promise cannot be cancelled. In Indian villages, whenever there is a quarrel between two parties, they go to a temple to settle the quarrel. Whatever is spoken in front of the deity is taken to be true, for no one dare lie before the deity. Why? Why would no one dare lie before the deity?
The super soul is a representative of the deity. And,
Well, then why do you have to be in front of the deity? Because you always have the super soul with you. It's because he knows you might be able to fool this one or that person, but you can't fool Krishna. None of us can fool Krishna. So therefore, when there was an argument and someone said, well, you said this, and the other one says, no, you said that, and they go in front of the deity, and no one would dare speak a lie because they knew they were lying in front of Krishna. He knows, and it's not very good for your future. They go in front of the deity. No one would dare lie before the deity. No one would dare because they were pious. They were simpler-hearted too. They were pious. And their conscience wouldn't allow them to do that. This same principle was followed in the Battle of Kurukshetra. Therefore, in the very beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated, Dharma Kshetra Kurukshetra, means that the battle was going to take place in Kurukshetra, which was Dharma Kshetra, a place of, a holy place, a place of religiosity. Now, Prabhupada changes the subject, but not changes it, but he goes tangential, bringing it to a preaching point, and he says, by not becoming God conscious, human society is deteriorating to the lowest standard of animal life. This Krishna consciousness movement is very essential to reviving God consciousness among the general populace. If people actually became God conscious, all quarrels can be settled outside of court, as happened in the case of the two Brahmanas whose disagreement was settled by the witness Gopal, Sakshi Gopal. Text 33.
Excuse me, Father. I forgot to ask you, like, would that be a pure devotee as well, if you spoke in front of a pure devotee? Would that, because like Arjuna, Krishna would satisfy these pure devotees, if someone surrendered to them or said something, isn't it?
I'm not sure exactly what you mean, but probably the answer is yes. Just to be polite.
I'm just trying to think of the example.
No, but you can do it. You can look at it another way too. Since Krishna is in everyone's heart, then you shouldn't lie at all, because you're lying in front of Krishna within the other person's heart, and all living entities should be respected in that way. So, yeah. But there are other sides to this, where Prabhupada, or Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that if you're doing business, sometimes if you're a shopkeeper, you have to like bend the truth. Sometimes that I'm selling it to you at cost price. I'm not making any money out of it. I've heard that also, of course, in India, but I've heard it also here in this very British country, Australia. Has anyone ever told you that in a shop? Yeah? Yeah. I asked, could you make it a little cheaper? I'm already selling it to you at a loss. What can I do? So then the younger brother addressed the deity. He said, my dear Lord, you are my witness. Toma Sakshi Bolaimu. Yadi Anyata Deki. And I shall call you to testify if it is necessary later on. Now, here the basic plot of the rest of the pastime is already set up. And then, after these talks, the two Brahmanas started for home. As usual, the young Brahmana accompanied the elderly Brahmana as if the older Brahmana were a guru, his spiritual master, and rendered him service in various ways. And after returning to Vidyanagar, each Brahmana went to his respective home. After some time, the elderly Brahmana became very anxious because he was now in a different atmosphere, a different place, surrounded by different people, that holy atmosphere that was surrounding him, that detachment that comes from going on pilgrimage and being in holy places, the attachment born out of attachment to higher things, it was diminished. And he was surrounded by his family members, And he became anxious because he knew that he had promised. And now he began to understand that I'm going to have to follow through on my word. I've given my word. And now he had to take the step of informing his family members. He began to think, I've been given my word to a Brahmana in a holy place, and what I promised will certainly come to pass. I must now disclose this to my wife, sons, and other relatives and friends. Thus one day, the elderly Brahmana called for a meeting of all his relatives and friends, and before all of them, he narrated what had taken place in front of Gopal. When those who belonged to the family circle heard the narration of the old Brahmana, they made exclamations showing their disappointment. What did it sound like? Oh no. Oh no, what have you done? Oh. So, huh? Yeah. You know what oive means? It means alas, alas. Alas, alas. They were so disappointed. They all requested that he not make such a proposal again. Don't ever say that again. They unanimously, every one of his relatives and friends agreed, if you offer your daughter to a degraded family, your aristocracy will be lost. When people hear of this, they will make jokes and laugh at you. Now he was in a difficult circumstance. Viprabhale. Tirtha Vakya Kemone Koreana. How can I undo the promise that I made in a holy place while on pilgrimage? Are you trying to say that I should lie? Whatever may happen, I must give my daughter in charity. The relatives, again, unanimously said, if you give your daughter to that boy, we shall give up all connection with you. Indeed, his wife and sons declared, if such a thing happens, we shall take poison and die. So he, one could say, escalated. He said, I have to do it because I gave my word in a place of pilgrimage to a Brahmin. I must do it. He escalated. And they escalated even more and said, if you do it, we're all going to kill ourselves. You think your family problems are difficult. The elderly Brahmana said, if I do not give my daughter to the young Brahmana, he will call Sri Gopalji as a witness. Thus he will take my daughter by force. And in that case, my religious principles will become meaningless. I won't have kept my word, and Gopal's going to come, and we're going to have to do it. So he was so strong on following principles, such strong character. But it appears on one level that this is just a marriage story. And what does that have to do to spiritual life? But what it has to do is with Gopal. In the last chapter, describing Madhavendra Puri, we showed the nature of the relationship that a devotee can have to the Supreme Lord, or rather almost the opposite, the relationship the Supreme Lord can have with his devotee, so intimate. He can talk to him, he'll come to him, he'll ask him to do things, he'll look out for his welfare. You won't want him to be inconvenienced, to protect him. But here, it's even more intimate, more personal, more intimate. this deity, Gopal, is going to intervene for reasons that there are two devotees in difficulty. His devotees are in difficulty. He's going to intervene in what it seems like is their material life. With Madhavendra Puri, he had no material life. But Gopal is going to intervene in their ordinary dealings. So in that sense, this is showing even to a greater degree the extent of the reciprocation that the Lord will make with his devotees. That he becomes involved in their lives. But this is high-level devotees, of course, but he's involved in all level devotees' life, but not as obvious as it's going to be here. So you do not. So the deity will be my witness. So he said, my religious principles become meaningless because Gopal is going to intervene. That's what the older Brahmana said. And the young Brahmana, being very, very bahut chalu, which means very cunning, he said, the deity may be a witness, but he is in a distant country. How can he come to bear witness against you? Why are you so anxious over this?
This is the son or the son?
This is the son who's, Prabhupada will say he's atheistical, which is, I find it's a finger pointing not only at the sun. He said, you don't have to flatly deny that you spoke such a thing. You don't have to lie and say, I never said that. There is no need to make a false statement. There is no need to lie. Simply say that you do not remember what you said. Vasudam, that's also a lie, but it's a little more indirect. But he's chalu, he's not honest. Chalu means crooked. If you simply say, I do not remember, the older Brahmana's son said, if you say, I don't remember, I shall take care of the rest. By argument, I shall defeat the young Brahmana. Now I'll read the next, there's a purport here, but I'll read that last. Now I'll read the next two verses, which will end this part. When the elderly Brahmana heard this, saying, don't lie, but just bend the truth. When the elderly Brahmana heard this, his mind became very much agitated and feeling helpless. And here's how we know, get a hint of the quality of the older Brahmana. We've already heard his faith. We already heard his faith because he said the Gopal deity is going to come. I promised before him, he's the witness. He'll come. So his faith was so strong, his heart so pure, his heart so simple. Not crooked at all. And here's a second strong indication. His mind became very much agitated when he heard what his son said, and feeling helpless, he simply turned his attention to the lotus feet of Gopal. And he prayed, my dear Lord Gopal, I have taken shelter of your lotus feet, and therefore I request you to please protect my religious principles from disturbance, and at the same time save my kinsmen from dying. He wanted both. So is it possible, as the saying goes, to have your cake and eat it too? If you have your cake, you can't eat it. And if you eat your cake, you can't have it. But he's presented this impossible puzzle to Gopal. And to do the impossible, it's nothing for Gopal. He's always doing the impossible. He's assuming huge forms. He's assuming the form of a rock. He's expanding himself. He turns himself into hundreds and thousands of Vishnus and cowherd boys, and each one of those is unlimitedly powerful. From one unlimited comes unlimited unlimiteds. Now that's impossible. And then you have to say that the one unlimited from whom the other unlimiteds comes is bigger, more powerful than the unlimiteds that come from him. So how could you be more than unlimited? Krishna can do it. He is. So he offered his prayer to Gopal. Both I want. So, any questions at this point? And then, no, it was just. No, yes. Do you have any questions, Linda?
No.
Do you have any questions?
What happens next?
You think we're going to tell you and then you won't come next week. It's like any good soap opera. You have to end at a point where everyone is sitting on the edges of their cushions or chairs. What will happen next? What will happen next? Yeah.
I heard also that is it true that when you give charity to a brahmana, to a properly qualified brahmana, which is like these two brahmanas, the younger and the older, that you get repaid unlimitedly, and that's impossible in this material world. So they're getting repaid unlimitedly, unlimited, like what you were saying.
So you're saying, is that true?
Yeah.
I don't know. But when they say unlimited, they mean, so often they also could mean so much more than you gave. Incalculable amounts more than you gave. But that, yeah. That's probably, if that's true, that's the basic idea. And since we have a few minutes, I'm going to read this purport to 45, when the Brahmana's son said, "You don't have to lie, just bend the truth, deny that you remember saying it, and then I shall do the rest." And this is what Prabhupada responds. The son of the elderly Brahmana was an atheist because he didn't believe that the deity would ever come, could ever come. He was a huge deity. And he was a follower of Raghunatha Smriti, which means basically a smarta brahmana. Just the only important thing is to follow rules and regulations. That's the goal. Just follow strictly the rules and regulations, the smarta principles. He was very expert in dealing with pounds, shilling, and pence. So he was financially minded, not a true brahmana who was spiritually minded. But he was a full number one, Prabhupada. Consequently, he did not believe in the spiritual position of the deity, nor did he have any faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, as a typical idol worshipper, he considered the form of the Lord to be made of stone or wood. Thus, he assured his father that the witness was only a stone deity and was not capable of speaking. Beside that, he assured his father that the deity was situated far away and consequently could not come to bear witness. In essence, he was saying, have no anxiety. You don't have to lie directly, but you should speak like a diplomat. Like King Yudhisthira when he spoke to Dronacharya, Aswatthama hota iti gaja, which means the elephant Aswatthama. He means Aswatthama is dead. So Yudhisthira didn't want to lie, so he said something that was true. Aswatthama is dead, but of course Aswatthama was the son of Dronacharya, but it was also the name of an elephant, and they killed the elephant named Aswatthama. So when he said Aswatthama is dead, Dronacharya thought it meant he was referring to his son was dead, and therefore he gave up willingness to fight or live himself because he was so attached to his son. And so Yudhisthira hesitated to lie, even when Krishna told him to lie, and the lying may not be perfectly morally proper, but not to do what Krishna wants is actually most improper. So following this principle, simply say that you do not remember anything and are completely unaware of the statements given by the young Brahmana. If you make the background like that, I shall know how to fill in the argument and defeat him by word jugglery. I mean, I'll put some words together and say this and say that, and somehow or another I'll take care of it, don't worry. Thus I shall save you from having to give your daughter to him. In this way, our aristocracy will be saved. You have nothing to worry about. That's what the old Brahmana's son said. And then the curtain goes down, and we shall see what happens next. Shall I give you a hint? Would you like a hint, or you already know? The young Brahmana comes, and he said, in the mood of protecting the older Brahmana's religious principles and not making him into a liar, he said, you promised. We'll stop there. Okay. If there are no other further questions, we'll end. And if there are further questions, we'll continue for another 4 minutes. Yes.
So is it that if it's all religious principles, protecting religious principles or protecting a higher duty, then a lie can be an exception?
Yes, definitely. Because that's the highest morality, is surrender to Krishna. But that doesn't mean that we should lie and just say, well, I'm doing it for Krishna. The general activities of a devotee are in the mode of goodness, and honesty is part of that. So generally devotees should, but if Krishna specifically says, Arjuna, you have to fight and kill Karna, like he specifically told Arjuna, if he specifically, yeah. So the principles of morality are meant for us, to keep us in the mode of goodness, which is better for our eternal life. But they are not in and of themselves an end. They are to help us, give us guidance on how to act in this world so that our consciousness is elevated and not degraded.
I was just reading in the Srimad Bhagavatam that I was thinking in relation to this war in Ukraine, which is a war, that Prabhupada was saying that to invade another country is sinful, and that so how could you apply the Bhagavad Gita to this whole situation? And that, you know,
You mean when the demons are fighting each other?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
I mean, let he who is sinless cast the first stone in this one. I mean, I don't want to get into it, make it into a political question. But but no one is innocent. No one is doing it on, everyone has their selfish material motives. So that means there's a reaction, there will be reactions. In Kurukshetra, Krishna tried so hard, he was showing, he tried so hard to create a compromise so the war wouldn't take place. He went to Duryodhana and said, the Pandavas, the 5 Pandavas, they're warriors. They can't get a job in Kmart. They have to rule. This is what they do. They're warriors. They're bred, pure warriors. I mean, on that level. So at least give them 5 villages so that they could rule 1 village each. Spare them that. And Duryodhana replied, I cannot spare them enough land to even drive a needle through. He was so arrogant. So Krishna went to leave. He left. And Duryodhana didn't like that, so he tried to tie him up. And Krishna just laughed. He displayed a little bit of his power, the universal form, part of his universal form. So the fight on the other side was the Pandavas rightful. And that's a religious war, and Krishna took part in that.
Could you say if the Ukrainian president is wanting to surrender to the Western countries like NATO, could you say that that's similar?
If they were God, yeah. And God means perfectly pure.
Could it be like they're Kshatriyas, they fight, and that's a duty of a
You're not going to lure me into this one. If they were God, then surrendering to the Western, listen close. If the Western countries were God, then surrendering to them would be the same as surrendering to God. But since they're not,
Prabhupada's done so much preaching in the West or behind the Iron Curtain as well, so.
Anyway, we all have our loyalties in this one, but there's always going to be reactions because of all the innocent cow killing on both sides, for example. Yes, Radharman.
I find that fascinating, that point that there's actually no dishonesty that you get away with.
Say again? I couldn't.
There's actually no dishonesty that you actually get away with because Krishna is a witness. I find that quite fascinating because I reflect on how many people, and even myself, how I live on the
edge
of what I can get away with in terms of honesty in relationships, in dealings, and how far away that is from that principle that I don't get away with anything.
Yeah, it sounds, yeah. Yes. But the answer is bhakti, is love and devotion. Then you don't want to get away with anything. When you do something due to your love for Krishna, for his pleasure, because that's the very nature of love, that you want to please the beloved. So now, because we're practicing, we're trying to do the right thing, but with less love, and that's always a struggle. And if we can keep on the right side of the edge, we're doing well. In that sense, and so that we do by the strength of our character, or the strength of our will, and the strength of our attempt at devotion. And Krishna sees that at some point and says, okay, I should help this one. He's trying so hard. Good comment.
Rajan, Prabhupada has also said that if communism comes in, then that means Lord Chaitanya's movement will not be flourishing.
Are you trying to lure me into that same thing? Are you going to be planning on going to Ukraine and fighting? Picking up your AK-47 and fighting?
Yes. I've been listening.
They won't take you. You're too old.
Oh, exactly. So now I'm frustrated.
Why don't you increase your chanting?
Oh, that's
Praying
hard
that
too.
Krishna helps everyone on both sides.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's a good. That's a good point.
May all living beings be at peace.
Yeah, and give up their envy of each other. Yeah, may all of it be swastiastu. Very, yes.
Guru Maharaj, I find that in material world, in life situations, the thing of right and wrong, I find the principle of applying selfishness or not selfishness a much better indicator than telling a lie or not telling a lie.
Because it's deeper.
Yeah, because everything is relative in this world, and hence the absolute principle I find is my actions or motives selfish or not selfish?
Yeah, that's a good point. But when do you ever say my actions are not selfish? Just curiously.
Sorry, ma'am.
Are you able at some point to say my actions are not selfish?
We try for that.
Okay, then you're back into the land of the relative. But I agree, that's a nice principle. That unselfish or selfish. But if we were deep enough, we would always answer that I have some selfish concern in everything that I do. Probably. Generally, I would say, not probably, generally. But in a general way, that's a very nice principle, I think. Thank you. Because there may be things to do that are lying or not lying, but there may be other choices that you have to make that don't have to do with lying or not lying. So it's selfish or unselfish.
And that is why Krishna told.
But another way to do it, which is even deeper, is this going to be pleasing to Krishna or not pleasing to Krishna? So that includes both levels. The selfish, unselfish, the lying and not lying. But to know what's pleasing to Krishna and not pleasing to Krishna, you have to be deeper. Okay. Caitanya Caritamrta ki jai, Shakti Gopal ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Srila Prabhupada Bhaktivinoda ki jai.